Hello everyone and welcome. This is Christine with Patter Crafts, and I thought it would be fun to do this 6x6-ish 2-sheet wonder challenge. I'm not sure if it's put out by Mojo Monday or if they just are using sketches from Mojo Monday, but I found this at paperartistry.blogspot.com. I went ahead and I'm grabbing my Playful Pups 6x6 paper pad. This is put out by Die Cuts with a View. And I'm going to end up pulling in my Playful Pups stamp set from My Favorite Things, which I don't show here because I didn't realize I was going to use it until I decided I needed some images. So this sheet here is awesome. It gives you the dimensions on how you want to cut them. They're labeled A, B, C, D. It's very easy to follow, and it gives you the sketches on the left to make 3 different cards using the pieces that you're going to cut out. Now, if you're using a directional paper, you're going to want to be a little bit aware of how you're cutting your paper. So it does require a tiny bit of thought process before you cut, like which ones do you really want to use. Even though I thought I planned this out really well, I still end up having to change things up a tiny bit. Not a lot, but just a tiny bit, because some of my paper is directional. So I have my A pieces, my B pieces, my C pieces, and my D pieces, and I have a teeny tiny little scrap that just ends up going into the paper bin. So right here I am putting the pieces for 1, 2, and 3. Those are the cards, 1, 2, and 3. That's what I'm calling them. And I decided which one of the A papers I want to go. So once I have those all set, I decided, oh, you know what? I need some images. So I went ahead, and on the sketches, you can see the little areas for where you could put an image or an embellishment or something. I cut it out of white paper, and I decided to use some stencils. I haven't used stencils in a really, well, I say in a really long time, but I don't use them as often as I want to. So I'm using the brick stencil with the brick red distress ink for card 1. I'm pulling out this star stencil for card number 2 with some mustard seed. And then for card number 3, I am bringing in a polka dot stencil and using some Shabby Shutters ink for that. And of course you could see the first stencil is from Tim Holtz, the second one's from Newton's Nook, and this one here, I believe it's from Scrapping for Less, but it was not in its bag in my little drawer where I keep my stencils. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was a Scrapping for Less stencil. So after I get my little pieces stenciled, I decided I really wanted all my pieces that are going on the card to be matted on some blue paper. So I went ahead and did that off camera. And then I put this first card together. And once I have it all set, I realized, hey, you know what? I want a sentiment on this one. I went ahead and stamped the sentiment. It was fine. That piece, even though it was bulked up, was flat. So I was able to just stamp it that way without even worrying about. Now, I realized that I used the pieces I put aside for card 1 and 2. I switched them after I matted them. So I'm having to refigure this card. I have to take the pattern paper off and flip it over because it's directional. Now here I try to use it similar to card 1, but I really wanted it to look like the sketch for card 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that off, take off the old adhesive so it's not showing, and flip it around. I can do that with this ATG tape as long as it hasn't had time to really sit. Otherwise, it adheres really well, and I would have tore it apart if it would have been too long after I put it together. So for card number 2, he's getting this sleepy little puppy, and then I'm like, oh, guess what? I can put a sentiment on this red piece of paper. So Here we go, tearing this card apart again to add another sentiment on the front of this card. But again, it didn't really have a long time to sit, so I was able to easily pull that up. So we'll go ahead and put our puppy right back on. So for card number 3, this card base looks kind of plain, especially in comparison to the other 2 cards. So I ended up taking this small puppy stamp from the stamp set and just some light blue ink from Memento. And I'm just going to create my own pattern paper right on the card front. And I'm so happy I did that because I really love the way it turned out in the end. I'm not really worried too much about that middle part. It's not going to show. So once that's done, I go ahead and put my piece there on the middle, but I still have a few little empty spaces. So I just grabbed that stamp again and just filled in a little bit. Once that's done, I'm going to add that to the center. Again, put the little square on the center of there where my adorable little puppy is going to sit there on the middle. It wasn't on quite straight, so I just pulled it up and repositioned it. I added all my puppies today on with some foam tape, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the inside of the cards. This is where I realized this card base is not 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. It's actually 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. So I couldn't put a white mat in this one. It ended up working out fine because the cardstock was so light. So on the inside of this card, I put the sentiment, all this world needs is more wagging and less barking. And I added the little puppies to the bottom. Then I'm going to finish up the other 2 cards. So on the front, I stamped "You're the best cuddle buddy." And on the inside, I stamped "Let's snuggle our worries away," which I thought was really cute. And then I added an image of the sleeping dog. The only thing I would have done differently with that is I would have used the Memento London Fog ink instead of this light blue ink. It's okay, but I would change that. Then on this card number 1, I put the inside mat in, and on the outside it says "Sending wags your way," and then on the inside I stamped "I'm itching for a play date." So thank you so very much for joining me. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, hit that subscribe button. Bye.